And welcome to Rauta's opinion videos. This time I'm gonna a little bit do a talking about myself. What a narcissistic approach, I know, but you'll find out why. And after all, this is a first opinion video that is being recorded here in my new office space slash man cave. Actually did one yesterday for review, Rotten Dawn, but this is the first opinion video. I don't have beer here yet. I'm gonna get it later on, or some whiskey. So what is the topic of today? That is how picky and selective I've gotten in my later years when it comes to metal or music in general. Now this is a topic I could probably rant for a long time, but I'll try to keep it relatively short. Now the thing here is, I've noticed during my 17 plus years when I've been doing these metal reviews that I've gotten kind of more and more picky with the albums and whatever releases I tend to like and listen to, like truly enjoy. Now, sometimes people might not get it when I'm reviewing an album, and that I'm like saying, oh, this is pretty good, or this is something that I could probably recommend to you. That doesn't mean that most of the time I actually put these CDs in my shelf. I might be giving like scores like 7 out of 10, 7.5, 8 out of 10, and still might not make it to the collection. And the question is why? Why, Jerry, you have to be such an annoying prick or just picky one? Now the thing here is, I don't know why it has changed like that, but I've been always kind of quite picky. Not of course early years, when I was like my 80s or 90s, I barely had my first CD. This was, by the way, back CD player. That was, by the way, back in 1993. That's when I went to the record store to just buy CDs, which I had barely given out like a quick spin at the store, maybe a few songs, and like, hey, here's my 120 Finnish marks. That is roughly 20 euros, which is, I think, the pretty normal price still today for a CD. So after a few tracks, you might be like, okay, I'm gonna buy this, and go home and like, man, do I actually like this one? Then you started to give more and more spins. You kind of have to force yourself to like that album, because after all, you spent a lot of your money. I was a student back then, so it wasn't like flying money like Kardashian style back then. So basically you have to force yourself to like some album, because you had already bought it, and you can't just like return to the store after a few spins like, oh, it's not my cup of tea. Because after all, home recording was a big thing already back then. We didn't have internet. We didn't have MP3s or streaming services, but still, home recording was a big thing. So it's not like you go home with a CD you just have bought, and then you just record it on a tape and like return it to the store and say like, no, I didn't like it, man. I just like to get refund or replace it with some other. So if you accidentally bought a CD, by the way, I don't know why this color is totally changing. It's something to do with the natural light and weird setup. I'll fix it later on. Don't get stuck with that. So when you had bought a CD, you were like kind of stuck with the idea that you had probably bought a CD that was maybe not your cup of tea. For example, I remember buying Dark Tranquility Sky Dancer debut album. And first I was like, okay, this is really extreme in a way, scream vocals and fast-paced songs and complex songwriting and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, this is great. And at home, and I was like, maybe this is not my cup of tea. I'm actually not gonna like these vocals. I was back then, anyway, more listening to death metal and thrash metal and different kind of metals which didn't actually have shrieky vocals. That is, no black metal. So when I got home with this CD, I was like playing it. I was like, okay, this is kind of good, but then again, it's probably not. So I was kind of like forcing myself to go through those CDs multiple times, and eventually some of them became growers. You know what I mean? Like after a couple of initial spins, you're probably a little bit like, okay, I don't know if I'm gonna like it, but maybe 10 spins later, you're okay, now I know the songs, now I know some of the riffs better, and I'm gonna like them. Now, as a review guy, I don't have that luxury to go through 10 or 20 times a given CD, because obviously things are piling up. There's a queue that it keeps growing. So you have to kind of like make quick decisions whether or not you can like the album. And that kind of makes me picky one. Now, obviously, during these years of going through thousands, literally thousands of CDs, LPs, whatever, uh, I've got to understand my way of liking a certain kind of music, obviously, a lot better. That is, when I give a CD an initial spin, I kind of know quite accurately how it will go for me after a few spins more. Now, usually I don't need more than a couple of tracks to figure out, okay, this is going to be a good one. I'm going to like it. Maybe it's 8 out of 10, or 8.5 out of 10, or something like that. Or if it's a 6, or, 6 out of 10, mediocre one. Or total crap like 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10. So usually I don't even need to listen to the whole release fully before I'm already figuring out what to say about it, what to tell you about it, what to write about it, and what to think of it. But obviously, all these review CDs will be given more than just one spin, half a spin. Minimum of 3, always. Usually more, but it's like the minimum. So my point here is to say that I've gotten kind of a more pickier, because nowadays it takes me less time to figure out what I'm actually liking. I don't need to go through 10 times to figure out, hey, this is not exactly my cup of tea, even though it's well done, well produced, they're good vocals, and everything is like just kind of like well done in the genre. Usually I'm like, okay, this is pretty good, but it's not gonna go into my collection. I'm gonna give it to a friend, I'm gonna sell it, or whatever, toss it in the can. Um, so that I think it reflects on my reviews as well, because you probably noticed that I am not recommending fully almost any of the CDs or LPs or tapes I'm going through. I'm only recommending, like, I don't know, 10-20%, and even a few of those will actually go to my collection. I'm really that picky, but I don't want to be that angry guy. I mean, there are lots of angry video game guy, angry metal guy, angry kitchen guy. I don't know. I don't want to be that angry guy who just tells everything is shit and crappy just because I'm not personally vouching 100% about this particular band or album. I mean, it's not black and white. Even though it's black and white, which will you actually buy? You either buy it or you don't. There is like no middle ground. You might borrow a CD, maybe go to a library or whatever, but when it comes to buying, there is either a transaction and then there is not. It's really that simple. That is black and white. So whether I'm gonna put a CD in my collection, or LP or tape for that matter, the thing is really black and white. It either goes there or goes the other way. There is really that is really that simple. But when I'm trying to review, there's a big selection going from utter crap to the best of the best. So if here's like Dark Throne, Transylvanian Hunger, okay, 10 out of 10. There's a big gap between this ultimate crap, which is like 1 out of 10. But then again, I don't want to use review scores here on Rauta for the reasons that when I'm just describing the music, like, this is raw black metal, fast-paced, and they're great vocals. The production could be better, but the songwriting is pretty good, even though some of the songs are too lengthy. It might be okay, it's pretty good, get right? Yeah, it might be pretty good, less than like 7 out of 10. That doesn't mean it's crap, even if it's not going to my collection. Because like I said, I am picky. I'm probably more picky than most of you there. There are probably people who are more pickier than me, and it's totally fine. My point here is to say that even though I'm not putting that 7 out of 10 album into my collection, it doesn't mean it is crap to you. You might be liking it way better than I do. Or you might be just putting everything in your collection, no matter if it's 3 out of 10. The point here, and the beauty of it is, that we all have different tastes. Some have more acquired taste and are into obscure and whatever material, and some are just listening to the best of the best. They don't want to put anything out of like less than 9 out of 10 albums in their shelves. Because after all, when you feel like listening to some album which is not that good, but it has some certain good tracks, you might just listen to them on, I don't know, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Pandora, whatever. There are lots of services where you can just go for a selected track and give it a spin. But you don't have to necessarily own it. You might be focusing on maybe owning just the best of the best. Or just selected discographies by certain bands. I know some people have discographies or of bands which they like a lot. That is like if somebody's into Slayer, but not necessarily like big fan of all the albums, they still might want to have the full discography, even though they're like 60% of the band's discography are actually worth buying. And the rest are just there for, I don't know, for the sake of it, for the fun, for the collection value or whatever. So what I'm trying to say here is basically that even though I feel like I'm too picky and I'm not praising all the albums that probably need praising, and sometimes people get fed up. For example, I was commending the Tableau More album, rating it my personal rating as like 6.5, and somebody went to comment, they're like, lol, shut the fuck. And I was like, well, I get pissed off. It's still more than mediocre. Why, how would have the response been if I was just telling it was like 2 out of 10? Like telling it's full total crap. Like, sell your instruments, you don't have what it takes to play pretty black metal in the proper way. I don't know, I don't care really. So me being picky should not be a kind of a restraint to you not to go for it. I always think that whatever I think of any album, you should still give it a chance. Go for those links, listen to yourself, and if you are picky, then you are. There's nothing that can change it. And if you are not, that's okay too. It's your money, your time, your listening time anyway. So you need what you do have to do. I'm just trying to figure out, or more like explain myself to you how it is. And getting this older, grumpier guy in a way kind of makes me less enthusiastic about the most albums I get. Still, I love music, I love listening to music, and there's certain discographies that are just worth owning, which I totally go for. So, even though I might feel picky and selective, then when I go to my own collection, I notice, oh, there are plenty, hundreds of great CDs and LPs and tapes we're listening to. I don't feel picky at all. So it all depends. It's a matter of perspective. So what would benefit of this video be for you? I don't know. Figure out for yourself. Always give music a chance. Be open-minded. Even if it's not your genre. Still, give it a chance. You might be surprised in a positive way. Thank you for watching. Should you have any comments, questions, remarks, rants, feel free to pop them into the description box below. See ya, and stay tuned for more Rauta reviews and videos coming your way.